Our next conversation will focus on Nigerians' seeming penchant for Ponzi schemes. Despite repeated warnings and high-profile collapses of these investment schemes, many Nigerians continue to fall victim to fraudulent financial platforms, most of them promising unrealistic returns. These schemes have left thousands in ruins, yet their appeal persists. The question is why? Is it desperation born out of economic hardship? Is it a function of gaps in financial education amongst Nigerians? Or, truth be told, is the powerful lure of quick wealth too strong to resist? In other words, greed. I'll be discussing these issues with my next guest, and together we will look at the major reasons so many Nigerians remain vulnerable to Ponzi schemes, even after countless failures. Let me welcome Toyin to the program. Toyin Alasi is a financial advisor and coach with MoneyWise International. Good to have you on the program, Toyin.
Thank you for having me.
So a quick one. I have an instant poll or survey for you before we begin to unpack all of the many issues.
All right.
I'd like for you to pick one option after my question. And the question is this. What is the primary reason Nigerians remain susceptible to Ponzi schemes despite their frequent failures? Option one, economic hardship. Option two, greed, or do I say desire for quick profit? Option three, lack of financial education or literacy. You have to pick one option, that you think is the primary reason. Which do you pick?
I think it's option three, the lack of financial education.
Really? Why that particular option?
Well, because if you know the basics for investing, for example, you know that when the risk is too high, I have the tendency to lose my money, then a financially educated person goes in with the consciousness that, oh, this money I'm about to invest, I'm going to lose it. So if I lose it, I don't feel bad like the government didn't do something or this is wrong. So again, financial education is not just being informed. It's a knowledge. It's a knowledge that equips you with financial intelligence to know that I shouldn't choose this investment. I should choose this one. I should choose that one. So the foundational issue is that a lot of Nigerians are not financially educated. And what does that mean? It means that people don't know how money works.
Well, if you ask me, Tony, because, well, I can't remember, but I think a lot of Nigerians, when we had this poll, because NTA did have a poll that we pushed out there, and I think the answer for a lot of people was economic hardship. And they chose, we reported. But however you look at it, these options that I reeled out earlier, they all spotlight a fractured system, and they reiterate an urgent need for solution.
Yeah.
So, I want us to begin, as we unpack this entire issue now. Let's begin with the issue of moral responsibility and accountability, if we must place blames and where. Yes, some will consider participants of Ponzi schemes as victims of exploitation. Some would say, well, they are active risk takers. After all, there's risks in every business that you do.
Yeah.
Or a lot of people will say maybe they are both victims and risk takers. In your opinion, where does accountability lie? And considering the economic precarity, isn't it possible that when it really comes down to it, survival would always trump rationality?
Okay, while I like to say maybe the government, in terms of accountability, there's economic hardship, for example, things aren't working as they should, and so some people are pushed to go do it. The question I have is, where do you place a medical doctor who is very educated and knows that this shouldn't be, that goes for it?
Isn't that great?
That comes to great. Because when you say a medical doctor, what is the economic hardship that is pushing him? Compared to, I understand that, oh, this is where I want to be, this is not where I am yet, and all of that. But we all go through it. Wealth building is a process, is a journey. So when you see that when you look at the class of people who fall to these Ponzi schemes, you realize that it's, honestly, I always hold the investors accountable as against the government or any other person.
So that's where you put the blame. That's where the accountability lies.
Yes, it's the investors. I mean, it's simple. I've worked with people that come to me and say, oh, last year I got this amount of money in tens of millions and I went to put it in an investment that was wrong. This year I discovered that that was foolish and I wanted to do something right. So they come to me, I guide them, and their money is safe and secure. That's individual responsibility. Other people are still falling for scams and schemes. So the investors are responsible mostly. While I acknowledge all the issues we have in the economy and all of that, truthfully, even when the economy is booming and all the scams will come up and people will still fall for it. So that investor, I would hold the investors accountable.
Okay, so now let's talk about the policy framework government is putting in place to stop practices like this, and that's the new Investments and Securities Act 2025. You know, it introduces stricter penalties for Ponzi schemes. You know, their operators. You know, prescribes long jail term. I think like 10 years, if I'm not mistaken.
10 years, yes. And the SEC has the power to prosecute now.
Wonderful. That's it. You know, and of course, it also targets some other unlawful investment schemes, you know, in Nigeria. For you, what are the key issues, you know, that the law addresses in terms of clamping down on fraud, in terms of enhancing investor protection, and also boosting market confidence?
Well, I think that the main issue is the fact that now there are clearer policies regarding when things like that are identified. For example, before now, the SEC couldn't prosecute, or, you know, when you have to go to, you know, the bureaucracy of, I have to go through this desk, I have to go through this office. By the time you're writing and all of that, the process is a bit long, and then what is to be done has already been done. Also, there's a bit more consciousness and awareness. The other day I was looking at the news and I saw that there's a lot of awareness that is going on from these organizations these days to address issues like this, because now they're more empowered. They hit the streets. They tell people, don't fall for this. This is the number to call. This is the step to take. This is how you can reach out to us easily. Report this here. So I think that shared vigilance amongst all operators and also the government has helped a lot to improve the landscape. Well, we hope that it will improve. Let me put it that way.
Well, talking about this same legal framework, incidentally, it also legitimizes crypto assets, you know, recognizing them as virtual assets. Now, it's also complicated. Years ago, you remember the CBN outlawed crypto. Now, it's back in effect. So I would say, yes, the new law definitely offers a pathway to economic modernization. Maybe that's the way I would describe it. But then, how does it balance innovation with risk?
Well, the truth of the matter is, it's the future. Blockchain, crypto. So if we're not going to be left behind as a country, we have to catch up. That's the truth. It's here to stay. What we need to have are regulations like this around its operation. So again, if you look at things very well, the investment is not always the issue. The investors are. Crypto, all the different virtual assets you can think of, they are not necessarily the issue. It is how people go about them that is the problem. Again, because it wasn't regulated, it was difficult to, okay, maybe if you steal maybe I wake up in the morning and all my assets, all my virtual assets has disappeared, I can't hold anybody responsible. That is going to change now that it's being regulated and accepted. It's always, regulation is always the issue. So it's here to stay on a global scale. Globally.
You know, and I can tell you for sure, I can tell you for sure that, I mean, talking about global scale, I can tell you for sure that there is already a global spotlight on Nigeria's crypto experience or experiment, I should say. You know, and then there is the need, you know, hence the need to play safe, to play fair, and to play square. You know, when it comes, but the thing is this, when it comes to crypto trading, there is potential for increased fraud and scams, even with these regulations that you've talked about, because we're looking at a market or a sector with a very massive and huge volatility rate, you know, seeing how speculation drives that sector. I'm sure you've looked at this new law, you've perused it copiously. Do you think that as a legal framework, it does adequately factor some of these worries out there, and that it is poised to provide effective, the key word, the operational word here being effective enforcement, especially with decentralized assets.
Yeah, so first thing is licensing.
Okay?
So right now you can't just go ahead to just start and don't get a license. It's not foolproof because we have companies that have licenses and have gone down, and people still lost monies and all of that. But it makes it better. So the crypto space or blockchain technology is quite volatile and all of that. Yet it's supposed to be the most secure if you really study
blockchain technology
properly. So I think it's not the assets. I think it's the people, the company owners who set them up. They make you bring your money. They deceive you. They tell you you will earn this. They tell you you will earn that. And they don't tell you that. Now, for example, you should know when a return is consistent, that is a red flag. Every month, a business is able to return 30% to me per month or 100% per month is a red flag. The normal system is that things go up and down. So you see,
like life.
I don't know. Yeah, yes. I
like
don't know
life is a going concern.
If you've booked investments before, and then your bank writes you and say, we've adjusted this rate effective so dates because the market changes. So when you have, the problem is not the crypto assets per se, it is the operators or the owners of those companies like the CBEX and all of them who deceive people. And then if you research some of these companies that crash as well, the foundational issue is that they change their underlying business because of the volume of money that comes to them suddenly, because of the lack of character of the owners, they divert funds. And the moment you start to divert funds, there will always be problem.
Let's try and link it back to Ponzi schemes and how our conversation started.
Yeah.
I mean, coming from where we are right now, and let's draw the linkages. I have wondered, and I often wonder, especially, since ICT, and we saw the emergence of fintechs and, financial institutions. I just wonder if fintechs, maybe some of these new microfinance platforms and institutions that we see now, and even cooperatives, beg your pardon, if they could prefer community-driven solutions, to this whole issue, maybe by creating workable models, that replaces this allure of Ponzi schemes. Isn't it possible to create business models and make them credible?
By model, you mean that a cooperative should come and tell you will earn 100% per month
no,
when they cannot actually deliver on that? Because that's the problem here.
Isn't it possible to? I've never really participated in any of these Ponzi schemes, but they have this model that they come up with. They'll tell you, oh, this model works, and then you find out at the end of the day that it doesn't work.
Because it doesn't.
Is it possible for fintechs to step in and fill these gaps? Fintechs, microfinance,
okay, let me tell you what happens now.
Okay.
Assuming I'm a fintech and I come into the market today.
And you come up with credible ideas.
I come up with a credible idea. I put out the products. I will be in the market competing with the likes of people saying 100%. Meanwhile, I'm telling you, I can give you 21%, which is the highest you can get today, in a year, not in a month. So it's a bit, I think the problem is that people just need to know that there's a process to wealth building. Investing takes time, or becoming rich takes time, and investing is a journey. There's a destination, you want to be wealthy. Investing is the process, and investments are the things that get you there, like the turns and stops you meet on the way when you're making a journey. So because if I come into the market today, no matter the model, first of all, my model must ensure that I'm profitable, and then also my customers are well taken care of. So if I put out a model in the market, the truth is I can't match 100% per month, except I want to become another Ponzi scheme that will go down in a short while. So the challenges are there. People just need to know that there is no 100% investment per month that will not go down eventually. So if you're going to get into it, know that I'm going into this consciously. I know what I'm doing. Don't act like you didn't know and then they just stole your money. No, I'm sure we're well informed more than that.
You know, as we approach the end of our conversation, I wonder, and that's why I would ask you this, isn't it surprisingly intriguing that in an age of information technology, you know, that's where we are right now, that financial literacy still subsists at an alarmingly low, or maybe let's say average level in Nigeria. I mean, how is it that our system, you know, can, you know, capture the unbanked?
Yeah.
Amidst all of these issues that we're seeing play out, whether with Ponzi schemes and other illegal, fraudulent, you know, schemes out there. What are your thoughts, you know, on, you know, the double? Let me get your thoughts on that before I move on to, you know, to something else actually.
Okay, so it's going to take a lot of combined effort. There's going to be a lot of maybe grassroots awareness, a consistent thing. There's going to have to be campaigns created, an advocacy program created for the long term. Because the tendency is there for us as a country to be reactive instead of being proactive. We know that these Ponzi schemes are going to come up. And all these people, no matter how unbanked they are, they fall for them because they also feel like it's their way out of this poverty. Let me become rich and stuff. So the awareness has to be the combined effort of all agencies in question. Banks, governments, public-private partnership, to create campaigns, advocacy programs that will last for a long term to really deal with this menace in the society. It has to be deliberate. It's not something that we react to. We have to be proactive about it.
You know, I'm so glad you brought up the issue of campaigns and advocacy because that was where I was headed to before I stopped in the track and wanted you to respond to these. So in that regard, I would like your thoughts on what's it's been described as the double role of the social media and, you know, how it does amplify the spread of Ponzi schemes and, you know, also engages in campaigns or awareness campaigns against them. Do you think that happens at a balanced level? Do you think social media exacerbates the issue or tries to redress the issue per se?
Well, I think it's both ways, even though I feel like the negative is more than the positive for now because a lot of government organizations may not be engaging social media to the level that is required. So, for example, the campaign I saw was simply on one person's handle. It wasn't circulated around all platforms of government organizations online, which it should be. So I think it's both ways. Like the other show was saying, the other person guest you had, he was talking about how technology can be for good and at the same time create problems. So yes, social media brings awareness. I go online and I see somebody say, this thing made me this amount in so day, come and join. That's one thing. And then the other day I go online and see somebody like this show, when we share it online, say, oh, don't do this, don't do this, don't do that. So it has both advantages and disadvantages. However, I feel like more has to be done in terms of awareness, government, a concerted effort towards creating proper awareness for people to be alert and always guarded against investor education and protection, basically.
On this note, I'd like to, you know, thank you so much. This is a good place to draw the curtain on our conversation. Yes. Of course, the situation is still fluid. We're monitoring the implementation of the new law. We're hoping that there'll be stricter implementation, you know, of the new law, just so, you know, we get things right.
Yes.
Toyin Alasi, financial advisor and coach with MoneyWise International. Thank you so much for coming on our program. I do really appreciate your insight, and I look forward to having you here again sometime real soon.
Thank you very much.
I hope you would oblige us whenever we call on you.
It will be my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.